So you want to build a barndominium. We almost did. And let me tell you why. So bar none on our YouTube channel, the number one question we get is, hey, what happened to you building the barndominium? What is going on? We've gotten, I don't know, however many comments, people asking us questions about why or why not we're doing this traditional build as opposed to the barndominium build. And the answer is really simple. It's not a complicated answer, and it's just cost. Cost was the factor. As you guys know, we started the house build right before the world ended. Right before the pandemic really started to hit its height. I actually was in the process of doing all of this work, figuring out what we were going to do with our build, whether or not we were going to go barndominium. And I mean, I was 100% in on us doing a barndominium, and it just ended up not, the chips just didn't fall like that. So is a barndominium a bad thing? No. Absolutely not. A barndominium is a great structure, a great build. It just depends on a lot of factors. Which brings me to kind of the three things I wanted to talk about in this video. If you're building a barndominium because it's trendy, or because it's something that's cool, or it's because one of those reasons that isn't really a functionality reason, you probably should just go with the stick-built house, or some sort of traditional build, or something else. Barndominiums are great houses. Don't get me wrong. I've been in some. I've obviously seen a ton of them on the internet, especially doing research. They are relatively cost effective if you're using them for the way that you should be using them, which is directly dealing with this first question, the functionality question. Are you planning on building it because it's cool, or because you would love the opportunity to have a shop attached directly to your house? That was our first major factor that I ran into. We were originally going to do a 40 by 75 building, and we had 20-foot ceilings to the outside wall, 20 foot, because we were planning on putting in a loft and a back area where we'd be elevated. But what was happening is that the house, the living quarters of the barndominium, really is probably the better way to phrase this. The living area of the barndominium began to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, eventually to where the actual barndominium was literally just a shell for the house. And I know that's what a barndominium is, but here's the problem with that. We ended up, how it was going to work is that we were basically building a stick-built house inside of a metal barndominium. So it was kind of doubling the cost. And I can tell you one thing, the cost of metal siding versus at the time, the cost of the metal siding as opposed to the cost of like smart siding or another kind of composite hardy board or any of those things was a lot cheaper than actually building the barndominium, because we were using the entire barndominium for our house. And at that point, you're kind of doing double duty. You're adding an extra layer for no real reason. The point of a barndominium, the number one reason you have a barndominium, is because you want a shop area or a barn area or something like that attached to your living quarters. You're doubling up. Instead of doing what we did here, which was build a house and a shop, you combine the two into one. It's a beautiful thing, but when we started doing all of this work and realizing how much bigger our house was getting, because we have 3 kids now, and we want to have more kids through fostering and adopting and all those other kind of things, it was going to be I mean, we were talking about a barndominium that was going to be almost 3,000 square feet. That's crazy. It's a big barndominium, and it would have been awesome. I designed, through the process of this whole house build thing, I designed 3 barndominiums and 4 houses, just in SketchUp and in some other programs. And it just, as you get into this barndominium conundrum of weighing the odds of what's going to be the best, house versus utility area, you start to kind of run into these things. So what we ended up settling on is our house itself is 2,600 square feet. And then we built this metal shop building. It's really a post frame building. We built this metal post frame building, and it's a 30 by 50. So the combined square footage of those two compared to cost is a lot better. We've got a lot more storage in this shop as opposed to if we tried to do it all in one. For one, we just have this ginormous structure that at some point it becomes just kind of ugly. For me, personally, I think they can get to where a barndominium is just like, woof. Because the whole point of a barndominium is cost effectiveness. It's not beauty. I'm sorry. If it's beauty for you, to each their own, but it's not for me. A big giant metal box, they can get ornate, but at that point in time, I feel like you're getting away from the utilitarian idea of what a barndominium is supposed to be, which is cost effectiveness. That's the bottom line. So we ended up having 1,500 square feet on top of the 2,600 square foot house that we built. We have a lot more. I mean, in order to build a barndominium that big, we would have had to build, I mean, I don't know, like a 60 by 70. 60 by 70 would have been 21. No, that would have been 40. Yeah. So a 60 by 70 is what we would have had to build to have the same square footage. And at that point, that's a big, 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 big building. And to me, like I said, just kind of an eyesore. The number 2 reason that we didn't end up going barndominium as opposed to what we did with this traditional house and shop build is what I just have kind of been talking about. We ended up not liking the look of how big the barndominium was going to have to be. You can get to that point where you start to have, new corners, and you have cupolas, and you have all these additional windows, and you have juts that come out. But at that point, you start to eliminate the cost effectiveness of the barndominium itself. Where the value in the barndominium lies is on its square or rectangular structure because of one key factor, and that is the roof. The roof, whether it's a 412 pitch, or in our case, we were going with a 512 pitch because it just looked a little bit, better. In my opinion, I liked the way it looked because we were going with the post frame, not with a steel built house. A metal barndominium at the time, and still to this day, is a lot more expensive, almost 30 to 40% more expensive. And I don't even want to know what it is now with the steel prices and all that stuff. But I guess lumber's just about the same. It's just nuts. If you're building a house right now, I'm sorry, but you're crazy. Or you're rich, one of the two. Or you're doing it all yourself, which is a great way to save money. And we'll get to that in just a second. But like I was saying, the value where you actually save the most money on a barndominium is in making that square rectangular shape, because the roof relies on trusses. Trusses are one of the easiest, fastest, and relatively cheaper ways to do the roof structure of a building. In fact, I actually put trusses on our house because we ended up making our house relatively rectangular. In fact, it pretty much is rectangular, but we added those gables on both ends just for some aesthetically pleasing look on our porches on the front and the back. And when you're doing that out of wood at that point, it doesn't matter as much because everything else is wood and it's all cost effective at that point. If you get away from that rectangular or square structure, it starts to get a little bit crazy. So those are really the main 2 reasons. I tried really hard to come up with a third reason just because, 3s sound better. Like number one, number two, number three. But really, there wasn't a third reason. I mean, the main reason was just cost. And if you've watched part 2, the budget breakdown of So You Want to Build a Barndominium, the series that I've done, and I plan on doing a couple more of these when I can get everything put together. But I wanted to address the biggest question, which we always get, which is, why didn't you build a barndominium? To which technically, we did build a barndominium, kind of, sort of, because Austin, my brother, built a barndominium across the street. Or not across the street, but across the field. So sort of, kind of, we did fulfill the whole barndominium thing. But we got to see best of both worlds. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I have been wrong before. But in my opinion, the reason you do a barndominium is not because you want it to look cool. It's because it's the best use of cost. It's utilitarian. And they can look cool. I've seen some really cool barndominiums. I hope this kind of answered some of your questions, because we have, like I said, I mean, I don't know how many times I've gotten the question, why aren't you guys building a barndominium? I thought you were building a barndominium. Why didn't you do it? And I just, at this point, I replied $, $, on the comment, because that's really the only reason. Here's just kind of a snippet. When we were looking at the cost of building the barndominium that we were wanting to do, which was the 35 by 7 or the 30 or 40 by 70 20-foot wall post frame, not metal, post frame barndo, and all of it was living quarters at that point. We weren't going to have any garage, any storage, any nothing. Just that one alone, we were looking at about $103 a square foot. That's a lot. To put that in perspective, we built this house for around $85 a square foot, and that includes the building that I'm sitting in right now. Did I do a lot of the work? Yes, I did all the HVAC, all the electrical. I did a lot. A lot of things. I did a whole lot of things. That's helped save a lot of money. Even just GCing it and saving that money, that percentage that you would be paying a contractor, can save you a lot of money. But at the end of the day, when I looked at it, with me GCing it and doing the work that was needed and all the other things that I did for this house, I was still going to be paying $100 a square foot, and I didn't want to do that. That's nuts. Backtrack it just a tiny bit. If we were only using half of that building for living space, and the other half of it was for shop quarters, or for a garage, or for a barn, or for whatever utilitarian thing that you would want to be using it for, the cost on that building would have gone down for the house. Technically, I guess you could call it the house. We would have been paying somewhere in the neighborhood of about $65 to $70 a square foot. So at that point, it would have been way more economical to do a barndominium. But like I said, with the size house that we wanted and the storage options that we wanted, traditional build, stick-built house, and post-frame garage shop with a concrete floor just ended up being the smarter decision. To put that in perspective, Austin, across the street, he built a 30 by 50 barndominium, and approximately 2/3 of it is living space. He's got one main studio room, one bedroom that's for his daughter, a closet, and a bathroom. And he did very little when it came to like high-end finishes. They put a relatively inexpensive floor similar to what we did in our house in there, and most of the appliances were all stuff that he got great deals on. Their bathtub, all their bathroom fixtures are stuff that they got great deals on. And I think the last time I talked to him, he was around the ballpark of $60 a square foot for his whole build. It all depends on so many variant factors, because you can have a 1,000 square foot house that costs you $200 a square foot to build. It all depends on what you put inside the house. We'll get into a lot of that in the next video that I'm wanting to do in this So You Want to Build a Barndominium or House series, because all of this kind of translates. Whether you want to build a house or a barndo, it all kind of translates. I want to talk about the biggest things that will offset the cost, or that will cause things to go from a relatively under $100 build a foot to you're going to get into crazy territory. Like I said, if you're just building a house in general right now, all the budget conversations are out the window because the lumber prices are nuts. When I bought my lumber pack, it was like a week before the big price increase hit. And the studs that I bought were around $3.50 a piece for these studs on a bulk lumber pack order. When I had to reorder studs, they were almost $11 a board. Crazy price increases. I don't know what they are now. I was planning on wanting to do a wood fence that kind of went up our road. I don't know if that's even going to be possible anymore because it's just crazy. Anyways, I've rambled on for long enough. I did not want this video to be this long. So if you like this video, let me know down in the comments that you liked it. If you have questions, let me know down in the comments questions you have, and I'll do the best to answer the questions based off the research that I've done and the experiences that I've lived by doing this house. And if there's BARNDO specific questions, I can even ask my brother because obviously he built the BARNDO. But if you have those, let me know down in the comments below. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, it's a free country. You punch that little thumbs down button if it makes your heart happy. And last but not least, if you haven't rung the bell, ring the bell because we're doing a lot of other videos besides barndominium talks and budget talks and things. I have to build a fence coming up here really soon, and that's probably going to be a 3 or 4 part video series that I am dreading doing. I wish I would have gotten to that before the summer came because it's hot. It is hot. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.